Hi, welcome back to Film Gate, and today's review is going to be Split, not known as sequel to Unbreakable. Let's begin. Our movie opens up with, well, this girl known as Casey. All the other girls just don't like her because something happened years ago. Let's go. Eventually we meet, well, they're packing away their stuff. Eventually the dad is knocked out, and eventually Kevin knocks out the girls and eventually takes them to his lair. Eventually they're wondering what's wrong with him, and eventually we start seeing flashbacks to her when she was a child. When she was a child, she was sexually abused by her uncle, which is really deep for a Shyamalan film. She was sexually abused by him, and eventually we'll get flashbacks for this. I have to admit, they are gonna, but it does show how she could become known as a victim. Eventually he would go down to his psychiatrist, who eventually is studying on people with secret abilities. Eventually Dennis is eventually a character that eventually seeing naked ladies dance. Patricia is a teacher and woman who eventually controls them, and there is Hedwig. Hedwig is a small child, which I do like his line when he says, "I just ate a hot dog." That's the story. Eventually, all of them are trying to figure out how to get out of here, and eventually he is switching into personalities in front of them. Eventually Casey is not scared of him, and eventually is trying to get past him, and eventually Hedwig is possibly the most easiest character to get. Eventually, I will keep going for this review. Eventually as the things go, his psychiatrist doesn't really believe that this is basically one of the characters who eventually designed stuff. This is instead Dennis. While this is going on, he goes and they're trying to break out. Two of the girls that are break out eventually are in the closet, and eventually possibly a very good scene of mine is eventually when the Hedwig dance. After this happens, eventually Hedwig basically but the window basically promised, and eventually it's just a piece of paper window. She's trying to not tell him she's gonna leave, but trying to seduce him. And eventually, yeah. So while this is happening, we discover that she is eventually locked up as well. The psychiatrist comes to check out what's going on, and eventually discovers that he is talking about something called the Beast. The Beast is one of the most dangerous personalities. He's got 23 personalities, but this is his 24th, and it's an evil demon. I say evil because it is evil. The creature can climb on walls and eventually attack people, just like people would in the comic. And eventually the thing will eat people and destroy them. It's very goddamn gross. So look, eventually she goes to check out what's going on, and eventually she's gassed out. Casey escapes and discovers that he's got personalities. But eventually Kevin goes down to a train station where he leaves flowers. This is something really interesting. The Eastwell trilogy, known as the trilogy that was featured in these movies, is known as the Unbreakable films. People call them Unbreakable, but they're really called the Eastwell trilogy. Eventually, Dennis leaves some flowers on there for his father, who died on the exact same train from Unbreakable. And eventually we discover that if you watch the film Unbreakable, you will notice that there's a scene where David walks in front of everybody, and you see a mother wearing pink and her son, and then when he touches him, you hear child abuse. Well, we'll get to that soon. Eventually, he transforms into the Beast in the train and eventually goes home to get it. He kills Dr. Fletcher and eventually kills the other girls. Before that, she'd written something on his name, basically saying his name. Casey says his name, and eventually his personalities return back. His personalities do return back, but eventually the personalities do basically try to stop her. Patricia basically mentions this line that I think is really, really good for a larger good. Eventually, the Horde he transforms back into the Beast and eventually chases after Casey. Casey grabs a shotgun and eventually shoots the Beast in the stomach and in the heart. Eventually before that, he could climb on walls, but he also could bend bars. This is possibly my favourite scene in the film. While this is happening, he discovers that eventually she's got scars since she is the beaten, she is the affected, kind of like the glass. So eventually, he leaves her be and eventually tells her to rejoice. She's picked up by the police and eventually she does not go to her uncle, but instead eventually reports them and eventually must join to a different family, then comes in the news trail of her glass. He's standing in the mirror and eventually discovers that the Beast will help them get through the war. Eventually, as for filming a tune, Unbreakable came on. When this is basically happening, even Chris Stuckman recognised this theme and eventually went, oh, holy shit. And eventually, David Dunn is sitting on a counter and mentions about Mr. Glass, and that's it. Split is definitely not my favourite Shyamalan sequel to known as Unbreakable, but it isn't bad. It's a really, really good film. I definitely will give it a 9 out of 10. But my main problem with the thing is eventually, if Shyamalan made the teenagers unlikable and eventually kind of be mean, it would have helped them better when they died. That's just my thoughts. Because it just doesn't work. But I still do have to admit, it is a really good film. And I am excited to see what he will do in the new movie Glass. So yes, Glass is the next review, and I hope you enjoyed this. Bye!